it's me, Nicolette Mashile, and today I'm excited to bring you another video, and I want to talk about the worst financial coaching or advice that I have ever heard. And some of it might have come from my mouth, but you know, I've turned on a new leaf and things have changed and I'm seeing things from a different light now, and I want to correct myself if I have ever said this to you. Remember, I always say that you must take everything with a pinch of salt. I mean, there's quite a lot of stuff that people say around here about finances that really is just like, what are you saying? And remember that I am not a financial advisor, so anything that you, if you are looking for financial advice, please speak to somebody that is certified and registered with the FSCA. So anyway, this is the type of advice that gives me that face, that like, huh? What are you saying? You know, sometimes you're sitting at a seminar and you're listening to somebody that is renowned, someone that's written books, and they're giving financial advice or financial tips, and they say something that you're like, nah, my friend, that can't be a real thing. Anyway, so it reminds me of a situation, of an incident, in actual fact, when I started hosting Daily Theatre. Now, obviously, you know that I moved from How TV's Assertiveness, which was a pre-recorded show, into Daily Theatre, which was a live show. So we were live. Every single thing that you saw happening there was happening in real time, right? And one of the features of Daily Theatre was that we actually had an earpiece. So you had an earpiece in your ear, and anybody that was in the control room, specifically, obviously, your producer and your director, was able to communicate with you on this earpiece. And often or not, in my first couple of episodes, my producer used to always say, Nicolette, fix your face, because my face will be there like, what? No, what you're saying is not making actual sense, or I'm misunderstanding something. And that's the face that I sometimes give financial advisors or financial advice that I hear from people. And I realize the other thing is that a lot of us repeat bad financial advice because we either heard it from an authoritative voice, but we don't take the time to actually let it digest in our heads and think about it and be like, man, that something does not sound right there with what you are actually saying. So I want to give you guys my top 5 bad financial advice that I've ever heard, and I'm going to try and see if I, from my personal opinion, can rectify it, right? I think the first one, by the way, again, this video is not financial advice, it's simply just correcting things that I've heard that I think, something's not right here. The number one thing is don't obsess over money. Let me tell you a story. So a couple of years ago when I was working in corporate, I resigned. So the working conditions were not really well. I was one of the only senior people that was working on a very huge advertising account, and I was really under stress. I was distressed. I mean, I was working myself to a bone. So I went to my boss, and also just there were no processes in the company that I was working in. I mean, simple things like having petty cash. We didn't have petty cash. When you were going and working in a different location, you would need to book your own car hire. Sometimes you need to book your own hotel with your own money. Then they claim they will replace the money, and I was like, nah, this is not working for me. So I resigned. And when we're renegotiating me resigning and me leaving and them saying, we want you here, we want you to stay here, one of the things they offered me was a salary increase, right? In actual fact, they doubled my salary for me to stay there. Okay, that was good and well that they had doubled my salary, but in 2 months' time from that day when we were actually speaking about having this conversation with my bosses, it was going to be our salary annual review date. Now, so I had this whole thing happen, resigned, they increased my salary, and then when the salary review date came, by some miracle, my bosses thought I was also not going to be part of it. And I was like, hello, you gotta review my salary. They were like, but we gave you a salary increase 2 months ago. I was like, well, that wasn't planned. That's got nothing to do with me. As far as I'm concerned, we have a salary review happening today. So I want my salary reviewed, okay? And I can tell you why I need to be paid more. So the one thing my boss always used to say about me is like, Nicolette, money is going to kill you. And I was like, nah, it's easier to say money will kill you when you've had the money. So my boss obviously runs this advertising agency, he's got properties, he's got all sorts of things at that point, and he had far more money than me, and he was controlling the purse. So it's easy for somebody who's controlling the purse and has the money to say money is going to kill you. In actual fact, that increase and that they gave me from when I resigned and for my salary, the annual review, it helped me buy my first property. So no, it did not kill you. It did not kill me. I'm still here today. So I want us to get over this hurdle of saying people are obsessed with money. You better be obsessed with money, baby girl. Be obsessed with money, baby boy. Be obsessed with making your money as legal as possible. Make your money, make your coins, put your money into income generating assets, and you're good and you can resign whenever you feel like resigning. Aye man, don't let people that have made money lie to you. I think the second one the second one is buy a property as soon as possible. Now, it sounds absolutely amazing, and I think it was great advice in the past that people should jump onto the property ladder as soon as they can. But not all of us have the same thing, or want the same thing. So this idea of saying paying rent is a waste of money because you're paying for someone else's house, for me it's very, very biased advice or financial coaching, because not all of us want to put our money into property. Not all of us have a need for property ownership, and it's important that when you're sitting with someone, you try and get the assessment of how do they feel about property. If they don't know property, it's a different conversation because you can educate them then on that. But if somebody generally says, I don't want to jump onto property yet because I'm still busy trying to build myself, I don't know where I'm going to end up in the next couple of years, I could be moving, I could be doing this, I could be doing that, and you don't want to find yourself tying somebody up in a property which is essentially a very big purchase and a very big financial commitment, right? For you to be able to finish the 20-year bond earlier than 20 years, you need to pay additional amounts of money. What if those additional amounts of money need to go somewhere else so that you can have your everyday life? So I think it's important to not always put pressure on people to buy property as if we all are operating from the same financial goal. Also, the problem with saying to somebody renting is a waste of money, why don't you just buy the property yourself, is the fact that some people don't want that commitment, right? That credit commitment, because maybe in a couple of years time they might need to buy vans because their career will need a van for them to be advanced and to be promoted into the next job or the next position, and now they can't access credit to be able to get themselves a van because they've committed themselves into this property high purchase commitment. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with property. I've bought property, I've invested my own money into properties. I just think that it's very, very biased advice to tell everybody that you need to buy a property, jump onto the property ladder. Some people find other alternatives of property or of investing or whatever, because generally for most of us, that first property that we buy is not always the investment property. Generally it's the house that we want to live in or the house that we have to live in. So it's important for people to buy and buy well and buy when they are ready to buy that property. The third one is this idea that a credit card is the only way you can build your credit score, or the idea that you gotta carry a balance on your credit card for it to do something to your credit score or credit. No, there is no such a thing, guys. The best way to deal with having a credit card is to settle the balance every single month. If you are to settle the balance every single month, it means that the credit card company actually cannot charge you for using their money Let me explain this a little bit better. If you have a credit card and you use 4,000 Rand, but at the end of the month, you pay back 4,000 Rand. Essentially, they've got no balance that's outstanding to be able to charge you the interest rate that they have offered you on that credit card. So essentially, you end up not paying any interest. You just are using the money in advance and paying for it at the end of the month. It is important to know that carrying over a balance on your credit card is not going to do anything for your credit rating. Number one, sometimes it actually can be bad for you. Why? Because if you are maxing out your credit card and you think you're paying the bare minimum and you're carrying it over, and this is supposed to look good on your credit report and it's supposed to help build your credit score, what you essentially might be doing is that you might be using too much of your credit utilization ratio, right? So essentially you're supposed to use at least less than 30% of the credit utilization, the limit that you've got. So if you've got a 40,000 Rand limit on your credit card, it is best to keep your expenses on the credit card below even 10,000 Rand, because the more you use it, the more you're using up that credit utilization ratio. That actually looks like you living in credit and you're dependent on credit, right? Please stay away from that. The next piece of advice that I think that is bad advice is to tell people that all financial advisors are bad for you. Not all financial advisors are bad for you. Not all financial advisors are glorified salespeople. Yes, in this current climate, financial advisors do make their money from the sales that they make when they're selling financial policies or financial products. But it's not always the case, number one. And then number two, there's nothing wrong with a financial advisor selling you a product that you actually understand and you actually need. There is nothing wrong with that. The mistake happens when we go to financial advisors. We don't understand anything about what it is that we're looking for. Our own goals we don't understand. We don't have a set of goals that we've drawn up. We literally go there as blank slates. We don't have any financial education. We sit there and then we allow them to tell us what our lives should look like. That's where you actually make the big mistake, and that's when your financial advisor essentially becomes a glorified salesperson and might end up selling you something that you actually do not need. So it is important as a person to make sure that when you go to your financial advisors, you already have your goals put down, because they need to match whatever financial product with your goals. It's not always about high returns. It's not always about getting the highest return, because remember, high returns generally attract high risk, right? So it's important for you as a person to understand. It's important for you as a person to understand your own goals and where you essentially want to go to, because once you can give that to the financial advisor, it is then easy for them to find you the right financial product that they can match up to whatever it is that you're hoping to achieve. The next financial advice that I think is bad financial advice is saying to people that investing your money at the bank is a bad idea. Guys, please man, can we stop that? Because sometimes we make people jump into buying ETFs, buying unit trusts, buying all sorts of financial products that are seemingly great investment vehicles, but they bring you back the same returns as putting your money in a bank, in a fixed deposit account at a bank, or they bring you the same returns or even worse returns because it's investing in the market. I'm not saying cash is a great asset. All I'm saying is sometimes people are not necessarily ready to put their money into an investment because they don't actually have great investment education. So a lot of people, what I find is that you have a conversation with someone and you say, okay, you bought the Cetrix 500 DV or whatever it's called. What does it actually mean for you? And the person just, because they actually don't know, they can't even explain to you where their money is invested, what how much percentage of their money is going to which equities or which type of asset classes. So sometimes it's okay for somebody to at least put their money away in a bank, fixed deposit account, whatever account, as long as the money is gaining some sort of interest while they actually get themselves ready to understand how investments work and actually put their money into investments. I find that a lot of people will put their money away after 5 years of putting their money away, go there and check, and you know the unit trust or the ETF has done so badly, people then get a bad taste about investing in their mouth and they never want to do it ever again. But this is because we prematurely made people invest. You cannot just invest for the sake of investing. If you want to embark on the investment journey, you've got to sit down and actually start understanding, what does it mean for me to invest? What are my goals that I'm investing towards? Do I understand that investing takes time? Because for me, if you are investing in a bank account, let's say it's a fixed deposit account, and you've got, let's say you got a lump sum, maybe from your parents. Maybe your parents passed away and they left you a lump sum of 500,000 Rand. Yes, it will probably do much better in other investment vehicles. But it doesn't make sense for you to prematurely just jump into those investment vehicles because you might not be able to know which are the right ones to choose. So putting your money away or you could prematurely change your mind after 2 years and think, you know what, actually I don't want to invest that 500,000 Rand. I actually now have this job, and in this job I need to buy a car. And instead of taking a car on a loan, you can use that cash to be able to buy yourself a car. So take your money, invest it in a bank structure, and let your mind work. Let your mind think about what it is that do I want my money to do, and then only when you are ready, then can you put your money away in the right places with the right investment vehicles. Oh, and then last but not least, and my absolute favorite, there is no such a thing as good debt versus bad debt. I know I've probably said it to you before, but I lied. You know, after you're in this thing for a couple of years, you realize, no man, there's no such a thing as good debt and bad debt. There are good reasons to take up debt and bad reasons to take up debt. Because even a house, okay, can be a bad debt if you get it wrong. And a lot of people get it wrong, right? And that debt can essentially start becoming very bad and very quickly. right? So I think we need to do away with this good debt, bad debt, because it also makes people to psychologically think that when it comes to bad debt, they can accept any type of interest rate. No, guys, they're just debt, okay? What you use your debt for is very, very important. The reasons why you take up debt are very important, okay? So I think it's important that you yourself know the reasons why you're taking up debt so that that debt can fulfill a certain purpose. If that debt is not fulfilling a certain purpose or it's not fulfilling a good enough purpose, especially funding your needs or essentially things that are going to change your balance sheet, then you know that already you are on the wrong trajectory in terms of living or using credit lines. I think it's important for you to think about that in that direction versus thinking, ooh, something is already bad debt, ooh, something is good debt. Sometimes you do take up unsecured debt because you actually need that money for something specific that you might not be able to tap into right now because you don't have the funds for it. So we're thinking about, oh, one that I forgot about, one bonus piece of advice that I just think is very questionable. I don't think it's bad advice. I think it's questionable advice. Is this idea that you must have 6 months worth of your 6 months worth of your salary in an emergency fund. Jesus, how big is your emergency, eh? What type of emergencies do you guys have? Because anything else that you can otherwise not save for should have some sort of insurance policy. Your savings, your emergency savings essentially should be money that can take you through at least 1 or 2 months if you cannot find new and regular income. Now, if you're earning 15,000 Rand a month and you're sitting with 6 months worth of emergencies, let's calculate how much that is. 15 times 6, 15. There's 6 at the bottom, 6 times 10 is 0, is 30, I get 0. Put the 3 at the top, 6 times 1 is 6. Plus that is 9. So what? You've got almost 90,000, ne? Yes, 90,000 Rand of savings in an emergency account. No, guys, how big are your emergencies, eh? Because if it's a medical issue, you should have medical aid, right? Or some sort of hospital insurance. If it's a car issue, you should have car insurance, right? If it's a disability, you should have income protection, right? If it is, what else is there? I mean, what other big emergency could you possibly have that needs you to fork out 90,000 Rand at a time? No, man. Guys, let's be realistic. If you're able, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with saving 90,000 Rand. If you're able to save 90,000 Rand, sit down and think about where can you put that 90,000 Rand so that it starts to work for you. Because generally, and I say this because generally, your emergency savings account is supposed to be an accessible account, a very accessible account, a very flexible account, a very liquid account, which means that you're generally not going to attract high interest rates on that account. So to sit with 90,000 Rand, I don't know, man. It just feels awkward for me. It sounds like some very questionable advice, eh? Very questionable advice. Mwah.